Hello, hello, and welcome to the Here to Uplift podcast, where we center the stories of impactful changemakers, entrepreneurs, and community leaders who have done the hard work of uplifting themselves through adversity to get where they are today, and now uplift others along the way in their journeys. I'm Lolo Fisher, your host, lover of all things wellness, healing, and empowerment, and I would greatly appreciate if you show us your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast with others. Let's get into it. Today, my special guest is Stephanie Acosta. From living in her car at 19 years old to now founder and owner of multiple businesses, Stephanie is not only a high-value woman, but a powerful manifestor and people connector. I met Stephanie at the very first high-value networking event she hosted in San Jose back in July 2022, and thank goodness, because we clicked right away. Since then, she has inspired me with her entrepreneurial journey and passion for uplifting other business-minded women along the way. In our talk today, we dive into a variety of topics and lessons learned from her life and business experiences, including being in business with her partner and the unique and necessary skill set of compartmentalization, the power and importance of networking in today's evolving climate, building character and confidence by first facing rejection, and so much more. Whether you're listening in for business tips, wellness tips, or just in general to hear the story of a rising female entrepreneur doing her thing, you're in the right place. And without further ado, turn up that volume and listen in for my convo with Stephanie Acosta. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, so I have a 7-year-old daughter. Her name's Valerie. She is quite the character, actually. She takes up after Blake, not really me. So she's kind of like the kid that basically like asks for forgiveness, but not for permission. So consistently I'm like finding myself being like, what is going on?
You're going to be a great leader, but you're making it very hard
to
be a mom.
And so with that said, like I'm in a position where I want her to be herself, but then also I'm like, I have to still like give you rules, because if not, then there's no like molding you going towards the right direction, which is really hard, because when I was a child, I was like given like I would say like a cup, and they were like, just fill this cup and that's it. But never like was I able to express myself and like fit my own needs and wants. So I want to make sure that she grows up feeling that way.
But I'm glad you're like thinking about that change, because I think so many folks are like, I just want to be better than my parents, but then once they're in the situation, they just do the same stuff over and over. You repeat past trauma, so it's like really hard to actually do it differently. So I already love that you're like, I got this, so I'm trying to change how I'm doing that actively, as much as we love our parents, you know.
Yeah. And then those are different times, I feel like, you know, like we're in different generations.
Exactly, you gotta adapt. But yeah, you feel good?
Yeah, I feel good. I think I'm good.
Yeah. Good. Let's do it. All right, y'all, you have tuned in for the Here to Uplift podcast, where we make sure we're uplifting the stories of amazing women who have uplifted themselves first out of adversity, and now we're doing great things to influence and help others along the way. So I am super excited to introduce my guest today, Stephanie Acosta, who I actually met through HVN, or High Value Networking. It's a group that you started with some others, and I'm so excited that I got connected with you, because now it's just like making all these beautiful connections happen. So you are already a way maker, I must say that, and I love it. And I'm excited to do this with you, because I know a little bit about what you do on the business side, and we've started connecting a little bit more as friends. But in this sense, you know, now sharing with a bit of an audience, I'm excited to see what the journey to get there was and what some of those challenges we can learn from are.
I'm excited to have this conversation. Thank you so much for taking me into consideration. Like, I'm so excited to just get to know each other a little bit more.
Yes. Okay, well, tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is Stephanie. I currently own 2 different companies. The first one is Pure Materials. We're a Bay Area ADU provider. And I used to do sales for the company, specifically for Hispanic, so like in Spanish. I shifted to a CMO role. So right now I take care of our ads manager. I take care of creating content. I take care of making the content. And so that's basically what I do for Pure Materials. And then the second company, like you were mentioning, is High Value Networking, HVN. This is more like a fun company. Like, we did this out of like just wanting to like network with more people and create a community.
Yeah.
And so I guess my role in it is also marketing as well, but I also want to bring more women into it because being an entrepreneur, I don't have like such a strong community of women that are also relatable to me.
Right.
So yeah, I think that would answer that.
I love that. Okay, so I want to jump right to that piece, like having a strong group of women who you can actually relate to, connect with. I think I've felt challenged recently, even just in my own environment of like, I want to have these conversations with people about leveling up. What are your goals? How are you getting there? And not everybody's ready for that conversation. Yeah. So when you created this group and have now like created all these events to like bring folks together, have you seen a difference in the people you started with versus like who you're connected to now?
Definitely, I would say. And it's hard to communicate with people because you're fishing in the wrong pond. Does that make sense? If you shift to a different pond and then you start fishing, then your result's going to be different. And I heard this from a friend of mine who's way older than I am, but there are certain people in life that will no longer be relatable, right? The more you keep going on in your journey, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But you do, like I said, want to shift yourself to that group of people that are relatable, that are, you know, celebrating your wins, that are reminding you you're strong, beautiful, etc. Like, you want to be around that type of person because entrepreneurship is not just I get to look nice and I get to have the nice things and I get to have the car and I get to have the business. It's also like, who are you surrounded like by, right? Like, who are you surrounding yourself with? And there's going to be days where you're going to hit low lows. And then that's when the group of people that you do surround yourself with come in handy because now you're feeding off their energy as well.
Yeah.
So that would be like my take on that.
Okay. No, that absolutely makes sense. So I want to know like how you got to this place, because in my view, and you know, everybody has their own perspective and story, but it seems to me you are extremely successful in the work you're doing. And I know you have even more goals, right? Yeah. But I know you told me it didn't start that way and that it was like you went through some tough seasons before you actually got to owning the businesses you have now, and there were some failed businesses along the way, right?
Yeah, there was actually a few failed businesses.
Okay. I want to know all the juice. Give me the juice.
So first things first, I don't have any sales experience. I don't have any experience in business management. I didn't go to college, nothing, right? I used to be a makeup artist. I went to beauty school, and I was a billing rep. I ended up dating Blake, and we ended up joining forces, and it was like such a beautiful thing because we like fill each other's gaps. And so when I met him, I was a struggling single mother, and I was trying to launch lashes, like what you would call now e-commerce.
Okay.
And so I would go around and like sell lashes to all my makeup artist friends and like all my friends from beauty school, and like I was just trying to make ends meet, basically.
Yeah. You had that sales piece in you, though.
Yeah. And so Blake was like, well, why don't you have a website? And I was like, well, that's a good, like, why don't I have a website? And so then I make a website, and I was like, well, you know what, Blake, I think I want to add more stuff. So I started adding purses, and then I had these shirts. And it's funny because the shirts say, be your own sugar daddy.
Do you have more of these shirts?
I do, yeah. They're in my storage.
Oh my gosh. I want it.
So that's basically what I started selling.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is fun. And then I would start like messing around with Canva and like creating marketing material for myself. And then just taking pictures of my sister, like, you know, with the shirts on. And so then COVID hit. Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, I can't just be focusing on the boutique because the boutique doesn't bring as much revenue as it should for me to like, you know, step away from working. Yeah. So I think I was like kind of lost for a little bit, and I was like, you know what, I'm not a full-time makeup artist. I was just freelancing on the weekends. I was a billing rep. Honestly, I hated my job. I literally would call Blake like every single lunch, and I would be like, dude, like, I don't want to be here. Like, I don't like the atmosphere. I don't like what, you know, like there was a lot of animosity and stuff like that. And he was like, well, why don't you get another job? So then I did. I ended up being a sales rep for Fabletics.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what I did. And that was like literally a month before COVID hit. Well, then, like everyone starts getting laid off and all this stuff. I end up losing my job. I get unemployment. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm lost in life again. What do I do? So I see Blake making all this money with solar and like helping all these people. And just like, I was like, well, what are you doing? And so I would hear him all the time, like on Zoom, like training his sales reps. And I was like, you know what? I've heard this so many times, like it's so repetitive that I can do it. And so then he was like, well, all right, try it out. But he had a lot of concerns about like us being a couple and like working together. Which I understand, because I also like that ran through my head, like, okay, well, how is it going to be? Like, like we spent a lot of time together. It actually ended up being very, very good for us. He created these amazing sales teams, and I would be part of them. And then one day I was like, you know what, Blake, you put a lot of effort. Like we pour a lot into people. Like we're out in Fresno. We would drive to Fresno and like stay there for a week just to get like solar sales. And this would be like door-to-door sales. So I guess you're kind of forced to be like, you know what, it's time to put my big girl pants on and like do the job. And so we end up doing that. We build a huge team. We end up losing the team because the company like splits up, and I guess like some people went with some of the C executives and some went with the other. And so then Blake's like, you know what, like I am tired of pouring into people and then not keeping the team. So I was like, well, why don't we start our own brand? And then that's how Pure Materials came to fruition. And so we're like, okay, let's start the sales force. We end up starting it, and honestly, I was not successful with solar for like about a year. Like I did not hit. I would like go door knocking. I would sit appointments on Zoom, and it was just not happening for me. But it was really because I didn't have conviction in what I was talking about, and then also not being myself. Like people know when you're not being yourself. Like they automatically are like, there's like a huge wall between you and I right now, and there's something, they might not be able to put their finger on it. Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, and so as soon as I started organically being myself, that's when the sales started coming in. And I feel like my first language is Spanish, so I can be organically myself in Spanish because I have conversations with my parents in Spanish. And so Blake's like, let's try Spanish sales. Well, as soon as we did that, boom.
It clicked.
Yep. I was like, give me the bag, baby.
Not ready now.
And so then at that time, we ended up shifting from solar to ADUs, which is the tiny homes. And all of our ads were going into Spanish because it was the cheapest way to start. And so we're like, okay, we're like two kids that we just spend like $50,000 like trying to start up this business. And so we're not really like, we haven't seen our return on investment just yet. So we started pouring into Spanish sale or ads, which was bringing in Spanish sales. And Blake, obviously, as you guys know, he doesn't speak Spanish. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I literally have the whole team on my back. Like I have to like perform, because if I don't, like it'll jeopardize our business. And so this is a long question. Do I just keep going?
Keep going, girl. I want to know it all.
And so I end up doing the sales. I end up being very, very good at it. And then one day I just tell Blake, like, you know what, isn't as fulfilling as I want it to be. And maybe, as women, you just always want more. It could be that, or it could just be I really wasn't, I just really wasn't that fulfilled, which is amazing. I do love helping my clients. Like whenever I get referrals or I talk to someone and they are my friend, like I befriend them, then I do sell them. And I don't sell them, I just tell them I am helping you out with something, right? Because I feel like I can't sell people just for like the bag. Like I'm educating you and I am directing you and I'm giving you suggestions, and it's completely up to you if you want to do it, because I'm just a resource. Which is totally against what everyone talks about in sales, but that's the way I do it.
And that's your heart.
And it's been working for me, so I'm going to continue doing it that way. And so like I'm going to go back to what I was talking about, but basically I tell Blake, I'm like, this isn't as fulfilling as I thought it would be, and it's been amazing to be able to help so many people and like train the guys in Spanish, but it's not fulfilling. And so then he's like, okay, back to the whiteboard, like back to square one. Like what is fulfilling for Stephanie? Well, like I told him, I like doing marketing. Like, I like doing your marketing, and I feel like I can leverage your platforms because we have all these ads going on, but we don't have anything on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook that shows like, well, this is a real company, right? And so I start messing with Canva and like CapCut and all these other like apps and stuff like that. And so then our page just starts filling up. And then he's like, okay, we went through a lot of things, like a lot of changes to even him being like, okay, like go back to sales, which I did. But that's
trial and error. Yeah.
That's part of being an entrepreneur. When you own a business, you wear like multiple hats.
Right.
Whatever your business needs, it's like a baby. Like if my baby needs food right now, I need to give it food.
That's what my therapist called her. I was like, I'm opening a studio. She's like, all right, you need to go on maternity leave. And I'm like, what? And she was like, that's going to be your baby.
It is.
Absolutely right. It is.
And especially with your studio, right? If you need a painter, you're probably going to be like, well, it's going to save me this much amount of money if I just do it myself. If I do this, then, if something's broken, there's a light bulb broken, I'm going to have to fix it. Now I'm the electrician. And so same thing with pure material. Like if you need someone in sales, then I have to obviously step in. If you need someone in marketing, then I obviously have to step in. And, if you need a therapist, because obviously being a girlfriend and then working with your man, you're like, well, then I'm also a therapist.
I'm also here.
So yeah, it's just filling in the gaps. And so, so we end up hiring a company, like an outsourcing company that does marketing while I was doing sales because I had to shift my focus. Well, the company started doing super, super bad. Like, it was like, honestly, if I show you the work, you're going to be like, what is this? Like, I was like, Valerie could probably do it for me at this point. And it's I'm not even trying to be mean about it, but really I was like, we're spending $4,500 every month for it. And it's not reflecting
and it was not
what we're paying for. And then there was also like a mishap with the company. Like there was money missing, and then that was like whoosh, automatic red flag. Yeah. And so then at that point you become an accountant and you're like, yo, like I have to find someone that's adequate to manage it, because you can't just hand someone your company card and be like, just work on it. Like they'll swipe it. And so I told Blake, you know what? I'm going to go back to marketing. Yeah. And then we're going to hire more people that speak Spanish. And so it's been a whole journey from there. We are now more into the English market because we're in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley, and it's just a lot more people that speak English than Spanish. So we transitioned to that, and it's been going well. I mean, we still do Spanish sales, but it's mostly based in the English market.
Okay. No, that's a beautiful journey, because I think it recognizes how much you have to pivot as a business owner and entrepreneur. So. And I think there's layers that we don't talk about enough. For me, it's the emotional side of like managing all the roles, wearing all the hats, filling in all the gaps. Like with my studio, even like I hired teachers with the mindset that it's like, I don't want to be doing this alone. Like, yes, I'm founding this space, but I want the studio to represent like multiple people, my whole community. So I'm like, I got this awesome team of teachers, and I'm thinking it's going to take some of my busyness away. It kind of did the opposite, because then you added that layer of people management, and then you're thinking about all the supervisory elements, as well as like what you can do yourself still in filling those gaps. So it's actually been a little bit more, and the emotional toll as well as the physical toll of having to wear so many hats. It is hard sometimes. It is hard. I'm like, I just want to do this. And it's like, but I got all these other things that are priority, whether I like it or not. Like, they have to come first right now. And I feel like I heard that a lot in your story, just in terms of like, you felt like your passion was marketing, but you had to switch to sales for that period of time. So do you feel like another switch is coming in terms of changing and adapting in the business and filling those needs?
I think that there is another change coming. I don't really think it's going to be in pure materials. I want to shift a little bit more into my own goals, because I have, I don't want to say sacrificed, but I have shifted a lot of my focus from my personal goals in like being a woman in entrepreneurship to being able to build something with my partner, which is great. I want to build it, and I love building things. I love setting systems. I love talking to people. I love networking. But I want to like bring my fruition or my dream into fruition of having a boutique, which is what's like close to my heart.
The original one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking now me and Blake are going to go into business trying to start up a boutique. I'm not sure exactly what it is going to be based around just yet. And then obviously we have HVN, which is another one of our like babies. And then that also takes, you know, it's been taking time, which honestly, out of all of the businesses that like we've ever started together, that's the one business that took off really, really fast. And I think it's because there's a lot of great people like you that are looking to connect and like be in a community.
Especially post-pandemic.
Yeah.
Still in it.
Exactly. And so I think like everyone was very eager to like have a community and have like, you know, somewhere to go hang out and like network with like-minded individuals. Which honestly I'm like so excited for, because I know if this is what it looks like now, then I can only imagine what it'll look like in a few years.
Yeah. What's your favorite event you've hosted so far?
I really like the one I was the moderator in. I like the what was it? Modern Day Marketing, which by the way I also came up with that name. I did I did the marketing for it, and I was excited because I don't usually do a public speaking. It's usually Blake that does it. And so I really wanted to challenge myself to do it and just put myself out there. And it was so organic, like talking to everyone and being like able to connect with them and be relatable to them.
Right.
That I feel like it actually came out better than what I expected.
Good. It was an awesome event too, just to see everybody there, because I think we all came from different sectors, which was what made it magical. Because maybe it's just me, but originally when I was starting to go to networking events, I was not excited for networking events. I was always thinking like, okay, it's going to be a bunch of small talk, which I don't like surface level things. I want to get to the deep things, the juice right away. It's just how my mind works, you know. And then you like get into spaces where the first HVN event I went to, I want to say it was the real estate panel.
Yeah, that was
like
our
the very first one,
event,
right? Yeah, and I'm like, I don't work in real estate, but immediately, like once invited, I had to think about like, okay, I've been invited to this event. There's a reason for that. So how do I make myself like applicable to whatever the topic is, you know? And I think that's the thing I've learned through your events that you've hosted is it's really just about building the relationships. It's not about the outcomes, which is what I think a lot of times people go into networking spaces like, I gotta sell, I gotta like get these connections. But I've met amazing people that I'm like, maybe someday I'll get your product and maybe someday you'll know somebody who needs mine. But the point right now is just to know other people who are working hard for their dreams. Yeah. And that's enough. Like, that's more than enough.
No, yeah, I definitely can agree with you on that, especially with connecting with people and building a relationship, like you said. But then in the future, like, it might not be now, it might not be instant gratification, but
that piece.
A few months from now, you'll like meet someone and be like, oh my God, I know someone that does that. Like, I know someone that does photography. I know someone that can do my hair, or I know someone that is an accountant. Like, we met Wendy at one of our events, and she's basically a business strategist. Okay. And she now is my business strategist. Oh, cool. So I'm like, I might have not needed your product during that time, during the Halloween event. Yeah. But then thinking about it, I was like, wait, I do need that. Like, I do need that from you. Yeah. And so I sat with her, like me and Blake did, and we related with her, and it was like, it just was sparks.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
So you never know when it's going to benefit. You never know, yeah. And come back and connect. And I think it's special when you're able to like connect somebody else. Like, I may not need your services, but you two are perfect together. Like, they have a need, you have this service, and it's like,
that's basically HVN. Yeah. It's like the middleman.
Exactly. Oh, I like that. You know, it's like, it's the messenger.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the messenger in between. Okay. I like this. Okay. Are you ready for the hard one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Lowest low.
Lowest low.
What has been your lowest low, and how did you get out of it? Because obviously you're here and you're not at your lowest low right now in this very moment.
I've been through a few in my life. I think that the biggest one is I actually lived in my car for about 3 months when I think I was like 19 years old. And I was working 2 jobs at IHOP. And so I think that was probably my lowest point in life. how did I get myself out? Literally just working my butt off. And then, renting a space.
Yeah.
I haven't been living.
Did you already have your daughter at this time?
No, I didn't.
Okay, this was
But
before.
I was about to.
Okay.
But no, I stopped living at my parents' house when I was 18.
Okay.
And since then, I had to fend for myself. And so that was like a really like rough patch in my life where I was actually living with someone else at the moment. And there was like something going on with them and their partner. And I ended up having to leave that house. And so I was like, well, where do I go? Like, this is such an like sporadical thing for them to do. And so I end up living in my car, like I'm like 19 years old, so I'm super naive. And I'm like, well, what comes after this? Like, this wasn't in my plans. And so I end up living in my car. Honestly, it was probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. And the reason why is because it actually helped me build a lot of character. It also like made me appreciate and be more grateful of the things that I have in life. Because I'm like sleeping in Marina, literally like in Hayward, parked in my car, and like, like having a gym membership to go,
take showers
and brush my teeth. But I do remember something inside me being like, I'm never coming back to this place. And I feel like that feeling is what's been fueling like being where I'm at today, has been fueled by that. Like, no matter what happens in life, like I would never like allow myself or my daughter or anybody else to go back to that space. So yeah.
Do you feel like you, like an entrepreneur in general, do you feel like you have to have a lowest low to be a successful entrepreneur?
I think you have to have multiple lowest lows. I don't think you have to have one in specific. I think you're going to have several, and I feel like lows are unavoidable, like, right? But everything's figureable, right? Like, you can always figure it out. Like what is low to me might not be low to you. Like maybe losing a best friend because, she's not adequate, in your life is a low to you, but it might not be to me. But I do think that you will continue going through lows, especially in entrepreneurship. You're going to go through betrayal. You're going to go through everything, but it's the moments in between where you win and it's happy and like everything's going well. Those are the moments that really make up, your life. And so I do think that you do need to go through the hardship in order to win every single time. It's always like a give and take, right? Give and take.
Something. I feel like that's why I always try to remind people, like, you're not really going to reach that goal or accomplish your dreams if you forget your why. And I think it connects to, like, sometimes your why is connected to whatever your low is or those, like, really challenging experiences that you don't want to go back to. I know I'm still working through a lot of mental health things. I don't. Do you experience, like, challenges with mental health at all?
Yeah, of course. And I feel like everyone does, and maybe not a lot of people talk about it because it's the ugly part, right? It's the part you want to tuck away. It's the part you want to avoid, you want to put in the back burner. But like I do therapy and like I do it in my relationship as well, because yes, we want to break generational curses in the sense of wealth, but you also want to break generational curses in like traumas, right? Yes. Past traumas. And per my therapist, a lot of the way you act has to do with your 6-year-old self. It has to do with things that you experience not now, but you experienced in the past. And in order, even in a partnership, like that has been the most challenging thing for me in my life, has been my partnership with Blake. Like it is love, it is business, it is like everything that I've ever wanted. It is messy, it is literally, it's beautiful. It's like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like everything like emotional that I could ever feel is like wrapped up into this relationship, and it's super amazing. But you do also have to break certain like habits and certain things because you get in your own way when you don't do that. And so I do think that part of mental health and talking about it is also being like, well, not what is that person doing wrong, but what am I doing wrong too, right? Like what can we do in each other's like presence or relationship, or even with friendships, like same thing, like, well, maybe or being empathetic about like, maybe my friend acts this way because of this, this, and this, or maybe I act this way because this, and this.
I mean, healing's that constant process, but if you're doing your own healing while also healing with a partner and then managing what their healing looks like in your own life, and then for you in particular, that's personal and professional. So I'm sure that has a lot of layers.
Yeah.
Like, what would you say would be tips for somebody who's going into business with their partner?
I would say compartmentalize. Is that how you say it? Compartmentalize. Sorry.
Yeah.
How
do you say it in Spanish?
I don't know. I'm too nervous. Compartmentalize.
Put them in the Tupperware.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. You have to put it in its own individual container, right? Like everything. And so I feel like with work, everyone says, well, like you guys work, sleep together, like you don't get annoyed by each other. Yeah, people ask that like all the time. And the truth is, yes, you do get annoyed, but you also get to see people, like the other person, in a different like way every single way. Like I get to see him in like his business setting. I get to see him in his like loving like dad setting. I get to see you in your like intimate setting with me. Like I get to see you socializing with other people, and like all of those versions are like beautiful in its own way.
You really get to see him as a whole, like the whole picture.
And so I think it's just putting things in its own compartment. Like when I'm doing HVN, like I can't deal with like relationships like issues at home. When I'm doing business, I can't deal with like HVN. Does that make sense? Which is like drinking cocktails, and like you have to learn how to be all these different like
time and place for each
thing. There's a time and place for everything. It's not always perfect. Like a lot of times as an entrepreneur, you like to make it seem like it's super perfect. There will be moments where you can't hold it together. There will be moments where you're super stressed out. There will be moments where you're angry. There will be so many different moments, but it's letting it pass and then being like, okay, like where am I at right now? What setting am I in, and what setting am I supposed to like put myself in?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I'm going to pause for a second because my throat's getting dry.
I was like, damn, this is long.
You feel good though?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Yeah. I know, I think I want to get into the confidence piece because I think there's a presence about you when you walk into a room that if you get like a little head turn, if you're like, I want to know who she is and what she does, like that's a good sign. And I definitely get that from you. Like from day one, thanks. I got that. I remember you were wearing a red dress at the first event, and it was so specific. I had no idea that you and Blake were even together. I didn't know you were the host. I was just like, I see this girl in red. She's not on the stage,
what is
but
she doing?
She is like doing things behind the scenes that makes me feel like she's the boss. I had no idea because I hadn't met you yet. And I remember so distinctly like this beautiful red dress. So you have the presence, but I'm very curious to see, is that something you've always had? Did that come from the low experience, or like where does the confidence come from? Yeah. And the presence.
Didn't always have it. So I'll start there. I built it, and I think I built it, it's really crazy and ironic, but I built it door knocking, to be completely honest. Because when I went door knocking, it makes you build character, first of all.
Yeah.
Because you have to face a lot of rejection. Like, you have to be okay with someone saying no. And as humans, we try to avoid.
We don't want that.
Yeah. And you also have to be comfortable with someone closing the door in your face, which as humans, we don't like that. You're like, well, why am I here, right? Like I could easily be like, well, why am I door knocking? Like, let me just walk away, right?
Right.
But just doing that repetitively and being able to be okay with someone being like, you know what, I don't want your product, or some people are rude to you and you have to stay calm. So I think that really helped me build up my confidence enough to be like, well, it's not me, right? It's not me. I'm like, I'm doing my job. I'm selling my product. You just don't want it. You're not interested in it, or you're having a bad day, or whatever.
It's not personalized.
Yeah, it's not personal at all. Also, I think being around someone like Blake, you have to have a lot of confidence. Like, he is somebody that talks very loud. He's someone that's very social and likable.
Yeah.
And so I used to like stray away from networking events. We're very much opposite in that sense. I like to stay at home and like watch movies and stay away from people. But I started growing into this role. Yeah, I'm like, honestly, that's what I like.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah, and so I started growing into this role because he's also much like a mentor to me. And he would be like, you need to connect with people. Like, you need to talk to people. Like, you know, like, you need to, like, create relationships because that's what's going to, like, help you build a community, help you, like, connect with people that are like-minded, that, you know, women that are in the same position as you. And at first I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't really like to talk to people, or I'm too shy. And
so I saw something in you.
Yeah, and so then it was just a repetitive thing. I just started going to events with him. I started talking to people, shaking hands, like, and then I was like, you know what? This is actually, like, really good for me. Like, it does help you, like, build your confidence to talk to other people because, like, you basically just complimented me right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that feeds you. Like, that energy, it does. It really does. It makes you feel like, you know what? Like, I am special. Or I am this, I am that. Like,
you a baddie, girl.
Right back at you. But it does, because at home you can tell yourself. But when someone else says it to you, it's almost like confirming, like, oh, I am powerful. I am, like, smart. I am this person, like, that I already think about myself. Because, you know, like, we're talking about mental health. There'll be days where you're like, well, how come I don't look like that? Or how come I'm not as smart as she is? And how come I'm not that? My best piece of advice is stay in your own lane. Like, literally just stay in your own lane, because that person is them and they're going to a different destination, and then you're you and you're going to a different destination, and your vehicle may not be, you know, blue and pretty and electric, but my vehicle's red and fast and it's a Ferrari. Does that make sense? So I'm like
yes, no, I get it. No, that absolutely makes sense. And I like that, because the compliments are supportive, but they're really just meant to affirm what you already believe about yourself. And if you don't believe it about yourself, which we all have those days where we don't, but I'm thinking, like, long-term consistency. If you're not, like, looking in the mirror and talking to yourself and figuring out, like, what are those words that make me feel powerful, that lift me up, that help me reach those goals, we're missing out on, like, this huge chunk of life, and, like, we're limiting ourselves. So I know for me, I have my total lounge days. You know, I'm going to be in my sweatpants and my little crop top, right? And it feels good, but I'm going to be like, ooh, I look cute in my little crop top and my sweatpants, right? But then it's the time and place. Back to, like, compartmentalizing. We were talking about relationships, but I think it also works for our own confidence in a way. Is like time and place. Like, I want to present myself in this particular way. So it's not necessarily about, like, I need to have $200 shoes on, but I got to put some effort into the way I appear and look to others, because it just tells other people that I care about who I am and how I'm perceived in some way.
That's a good one. I haven't heard that, like, what you just said about, like, I have to dress because it shows that I care about myself. So I think that's, like, of course, you have to care about yourself.
And then you enjoy it after, like, you find those pieces that you really love, you know, and then you start enjoying getting dressed up and stuff. But definitely, the confidence can't come from the clothes.
That's true, because when it's all off, you're still you're bare, you're yourself. So
you know, you meet sometimes. Maybe it's just me. I'll speak for myself, but I feel like I've been in spaces and places where I'll see a girl, because I'm definitely a girl's girl. Like, I love meeting other women. And,
I know, when I first met you, I was so like, exciting. Oh my God, like, she's exciting.
Women's empowerment is real. But I get excited when I see other women dressed up too, because I'm like, yes, girl, like, I see you working for it, because I know it takes effort. Like, we know what it takes hours. Like, to get all dressed up and get done up. So anytime I see, like, another woman dressed up, I try to hype them up, because I get excited to see that somebody else is, like, caring about how they're presenting themselves. But then I've had a lot of moments, unfortunately, where I'll go to hype somebody up, and then they just come back with a negative attitude, you know, and weird. Like, either they're like, why are you speaking to me right now? Or, like, it's maybe they're, like, with their man or something, and they think I'm, like, coming after. I don't know. There's always a different reason. And then vice versa, you get the people who are like, thanks, girl. Like, and then we can become friends and hype each other up. But the energy piece is so important. That's how I know it's not the clothes, because I've seen so many pretty girls in pretty clothes, and then they turn real ugly once their spirit comes out if it's not right. So
I think that you just, what I gotten advice from someone else would be, which I have, like, friends that are older than me, and I totally love to hear their advice, because I'm like, you've gone through so much more in life than I have. Is like, this piece of advice was, just listen very closely, because people tell you who they are. Like you said, in the clothes you look great, in the earrings you look great, like, you know, in the setting you look stunning, but just be very, very careful and listen to what people have to say, because usually, like, you can feel it, right? You can hear it and be like, okay, that's not that right.
Exactly. There's a Maya Angelou quote that I love, and I don't know if it's the word tell or show. I think it's show, though, but it's when people show you who they are, believe them the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes we wait. We want to give people second chances. There's nothing wrong with wanting to give second chances, but just know, as you give multiple chances or new perspectives of somebody, who they were the first time you met them and what they showed, that's always going to be part of them, and it may come back. If it was something you didn't like, it's probably going to come back.
Yeah.
And then vice versa. If somebody was like really genuine, and then the next time you see them, it was like, actually, I feel like they were really negative today. I don't know if I want to be around that energy. Like, remember when they were happy and genuine? That's still a part of them. So believe that and know that it's going to come back. I think it goes both ways.
Yeah.
But
that's a good perspective. Because it definitely does go both ways. I feel like you're either in a good or in, like, not so great mindset.
Do you feel like your friendships with other women, has changed since becoming an entrepreneur?
Yes, definitely. I feel like I don't really, and I love everybody. I love my friends and I love, like, my family and, like, everyone, but I don't really relate to a lot of people, which sometimes it is a little bit difficult, because you kind of have to tone yourself down around, certain people, because it's not like happiness and, like, hyped up excitement, like, when you're around. And it's okay. It's something you have to accept, because when you're in God's favor and you are chosen, there will be people that do not understand your journey. And then there's people that I love to surround myself with that are maybe not related to me or not have been my best friends since, like, kindergarten or fourth grade or whenever, that I love being around. And like I said, it's that energy thing. Like, you're feeding me energy and then I'm reciprocating that energy. Like, we're just a ball of energy, right? Like you said, you can go up to someone and they will either be super receptive to your compliment, or they'll be, like, super, like, standoffishy, but it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with their bubble and what's in their jacuzzi. And that's a term that my therapist uses. Like, everyone carries their own jacuzzi and their own bubble. Like, if you have shit in your jacuzzi, just keep your shit over there, and then I'll keep mine over here.
I'm done. I want no feces in my jacuzzi, please.
I cleaned mine this morning, so.
No, thank you.
And I'm happy and I'm reading it and I'm giving you a compliment. So if you don't take it, that's okay. I still threw it out there. So I do think, going back to what you said, my friendships have changed, and I am currently on a journey to be around just, like, amazing people that have, the same goals as I do, or have the same ethics, core values, like, all of that. I love to, like, make friends and relate to that type of person, because at the end of the day, like, when you leave that setting, like, you leave with something. You either leave with a piece of advice, you either leave with a good friendship, or you leave with, like, feeling a warmth in your heart, because you're like, wow, like, this person is, like, awesome. Like, there's so many times I'm done with HVN and I told, like, oh my God, like, Lolo is awesome. Like, she's such a genuine person. Like, dude, this person's so great. Like, I can't believe that I'm so lucky to, like, be able to meet someone like that. So
that gratitude piece, that's so important. I love it. And you're talking about the amazing people you've met. This is my example right here of, like, amazing people coming together through what you have done. And I really want you to recognize that. Like, you're meeting amazing people, yes, but, like, I get to meet people like you and so many other, like, creatives and entrepreneurs because of the work that you're doing. So I want to say thank you.
Oh my God, thank you.
Put that on the record, because HBN has been, like, really transformative for my, like, this last year, for 2022 for me, and now we're going into 2023.
I'm
Christmas
glad.
Tree. We got a couple more holidays, and then we're going for it.
I'm glad, but I want to listen to your perspective on it. Like, how has it changed?
Oh, okay, yeah. So I think the biggest thing is environment. It goes back to what you were saying about, like, changing the pond you're in when you're fishing, right?
Fishing in the same pond.
And my confidence level has changed, and I think it's because in that very first event, it was like, I was super excited for it just to meet other people and be in a city that I was not familiar with because I'm not from the Bay Area. I've lived in Merced for almost 4 years, and I had been to the Bay Area a total of 2 times.
Oh my God, welcome.
2 times for very short periods before going to the HBN events, and now I've made a point to come at least monthly.
Yeah.
And it's been hyping up so much, but I think the transformative piece was the confidence and just meeting people from so many different spaces and sectors. The vibes of everybody that's been coming to the events, like for the most part, the energy is hungry. I think that's the best way I can say it. Everybody who comes is hungry in whatever sector they are, but in that facet that we all connect on our hunger for growth, for our businesses, entrepreneurship, whatever it might be, it makes you hungrier for what you're doing, and it makes you excited to share when somebody actually smiles back and like, oh, tell me more about that. It gets you excited about what you're doing. And I love the work that I'm doing in Merced, but I will be honest that I don't always get that excitement from people. When I tell people what I'm doing, they're like, huh, that's interesting. And part of it's that my field, yoga, dance, wellness, it is not already thriving in Merced versus like if I came to the Bay Area. There's yoga studios everywhere. There's dance studios everywhere. I'm trying to shift a culture, and that is so hard. So this
but it can't be not done.
No, it's gonna be done.
It's gonna be
done. I'm determined. But I needed to fill my cup, and I hadn't been doing that. So when I came to the HBN events, it filled my cup in a way that I could go back and really give more to the studio in a healthy way. Not coming from a place of like drained or burnout or trying to prove something, but truly like, no, I'm excited and passionate about what I do. So when I come back to my own community, I'm able to give from my best. That was the transformative piece. I was starting to burn out. I needed to get my cup filled, and those events did that for sure.
That's always really important. There's like a John Maxwell rule where it's like 80-20 rule. Like that 20% that fills your cup is what fuels like the 80% of your business.
Yes. And if we don't spend the time to do it, we drain so much we got nothing to pour out anymore. But I love it. Okay. I think I got like 2 more questions for you. So
I'm like scared and nervous and all happy and excited at the same time.
They're kind of connected. So the first of these 2 would kind of be, what are like some of those biggest life or business lessons that the next entrepreneur who's listening or watching to this needs to know?
I would say for life, I live off this quote where it's like, and I don't know exactly who says it, but people will never forget how you, like they'll forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Also Maya Angelou.
Yeah. I love that quote. I love it because it literally like, it's true. Like every time that I've been in a situation where someone's made me feel a certain way, like it's very impactful and you remember it. And then like also like what's been said is always forgotten, but I try to basically live off that quote because every time I do an event or every time I meet a client or every time I meet anyone, I try to make sure I give my best, and not just for the first impression, for like recurring, you know, and you can't always be on like 10. Sometimes you're on 8. Sometimes you're drained out and you're burned out and you're at 6. But people will always remember how you made them feel. And so I try to make sure that whenever I go around, I make people feel good. I make, you know, like I give you a compliment. Like those are things that you have to remind yourself because, you know, a lot of the times people go around in life and they just forget. Like they're like, okay, this is my routine. And they forget to say hello. And they forget to compliment and they forget. And then they wonder, well, how come I don't get a hello? And how come I don't get a compliment? Right? Well, just because you're not giving them out.
It comes back to you. Whatever you give out comes back.
And sometimes it comes back tenfold. So, you know, and also a helping hand, right? Like that's another thing that I'm really big on is helping someone else, because there has been moments like we talked about where it's been low. And so I'm like, I know how that feels. And I have to remind myself, like, I know how that feels, so I have to do something about it. You know, and I'm also very, like, a big believer in God. Like, I got baptized, like, this year, and it was, like...
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was such a, like, redirectional moment in my life. And it just, like, you know, like I said, like, if there's something that I'm very passionate about and it like pulls on my heartstrings, I am like, I have to do it, Blake. Like, I have to get it done. And then the second piece of advice for entrepreneurships would be, or entrepreneurs, what was the question again?
And something that entrepreneurs need to know, a lesson you've learned.
A piece of advice
that they need to know.
I think as a woman, it's been very challenging for me to be a businesswoman in a male-dominant industry. And so I feel like just like showing up and talking and, you know, putting yourself out there and being heard. Yeah. Like a lot of the times as women, we don't talk or we don't say anything and we're like, oh, just the pretty face, you know, in the room. But like there's somebody out there that wants to like to hear what you have to say. And there's someone out there that there's a little girl. This is what I tell myself every single time I do something. There is a little girl, which I already have one. I have a 6-year-old. So there's a little girl out there that wishes you would speak up, that wishes that you would close that deal, that wishes that you would have made that rank in your company, that wish, you know, that wishes that you did go on that trip that you earned. So I think like, make your highest self and your 6-year-old happy by doing, you know, doing the things you say you will. Like if you're going to set a goal, be disciplined enough to meet it. And I'm not saying like, okay, like I did it I set a goal for 3 months, but I didn't do it. Okay, well then why don't you try for 6 months? Yeah. Or 9 months or 12 months till you hit the goal. Like
just don't give up on it.
Yeah, just don't give up on it, because sometimes I do find myself lately being like, okay, this is my goal. And then I'm like, oh my God, I didn't meet it. So I'm just going to completely forget about it, right? You can't do that. Like, you have to remind yourself. My 6-year-old is watching, but then my higher self is watching. So, like I said, especially as a woman, I'm like, I have to make sure I hit my goals, because I'm not doing this to prove a man right, or I'm not doing this for, you know, like, gratification in the room. I'm doing it because there's a little girl watching, my 6-year-old is watching, and then my higher self is expecting me to meet these goals.
I love that. Thanks. So get in touch with your higher self, and if you don't know how to do that, find a therapist to get in touch with your 6-year-old self first, and then you'll get there. She'll
tell you what she looked like.
I love it. Okay, you mentioned that you have a 6-year-old.
Oh, yes.
And that actually leads to the last question.
Oh, my God.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be, it's huge. Like, it's in my head right now. But it's a huge plan. It's a map. And I've mapped it out. And, you know, I've mapped it out with Blake, because obviously we're building an empire together.
Yes, empire building.
And it has to do with several companies that are all connected to each other, which I will leave behind, you know, to my future kids, because I'm also going to have more kids, not just Valerie. I guess just, you know, like making sure you guys have life insurance policies, making sure that, you know, you allow your kids to be themselves, because there's a lot of systems in life that you have to follow. Which is great, because, you know, a business doesn't run without a system. Like, that's the heart of the company. But there's also certain systems that don't work out. So make sure you toss those. So I guess for Valerie, since she is my present child, I would say I want her to know, like, there is hardship. There is dedication that is needed. There's discipline that is needed. There's certain ways to do that and still be yourself, right? Yeah. Like, there's certain ways that you can express yourself and still have somewhere to go back and be like, okay, I can be myself, but there's also rules and there's also regulations and things that need to be followed in order to stay on track, right? Which is like having a schedule, an agenda, having, like I said, rules, or having goal setting and being like, well, how am I going to get to this 3-month goal? How am I going to get to the 6-month goal? So that, and then just leaving behind, you know, everything like that I've built is basically for her. And I also am like, it's also my duty to prepare her for that, right? Which is like a two job thing.
Yep.
Yeah. But I want her to choose. I want her to be like, okay, do you want to do sales? Are you into the construction? Are you into real estate? Are you into the boutique? Are you, you know, like, are you into
We've created
socializing?
All these avenues for
you.
Which
one do you fit best in? And so that's a good question, because it really has me thinking right now, just because I've been literally like asleep for like a month, right? Like I I've been dormant, and right now I'm like, hey, what is it exactly? You know, like I have to go back maybe and recheck my goals.
Yeah. I mean, tis the season.
Yeah, it is.
Tis the season.
Tis the season for new goals.
I love it. I know you're going to conquer every goal that you set, though. I've seen how you're already doing it so much. The visions you have put in your mind are coming to life.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be your friend now and get to watch what comes next and, you know, get in on this boutique action and see what's to come.
I'm excited for that.
More than anything, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm
Thanks
so
for
happy
coming.
we got to have this conversation in your home, too. Thank you for having me.
Of course,
in your
you're
home.
always welcome here.
I love it.
I'm like,
Thank you.
please
I'm
stay
gonna
over
come
more
back
often.
For sure.
Let's
How's
hang
that
out.
Couch?
Yeah, actually, we have a queen size bed, so you don't even need to use the couch.
Shoot, for a queen. Y'all hear that, right? For a queen. Okay. I think that's it, girl.
All right, let's
Thank
go.
you.
Thank you.
We did it. I love you. I appreciate you.
I love you, honestly. That was awesome.
Tell the people how they can connect with you.
You can connect with me on social media, so like Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. My Instagram is 7figuresteph. That's the same handle for TikTok, and then my LinkedIn is Stephanie Acosta.
And 7 without the E's.
Yeah, so it's SVN figure STEPH.
Perfect. I'll link everything though in the bios, the caption, and so on and so on. So get connected with Steph. She's amazing. And if you are around the Bay Area, come to an HVN event so you can come talk to both of us, and we'd love to get to know you.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.